What are we gonna do when we get back?
What are we gonna do when we get back?
I take a shower and hit the rack.
Take a shower and hit the rack.
Welcome to Charlie Mike. If you're a combat veteran with an entrepreneurial bug and want to know what highly successful combat veteranpreneurs are doing to transform their sacrifice and experience to create their visual reality, then this is dedicated to your inspiring and fulfilling future. And now your host, Dwayne Paro.
No way, gotta run, feet, lots of fun.
Invest in Yourself ebook is my free gift to you for listening to the show and becoming part of the CO Nation. To receive your free gift, please go to landmarklifecoaching.com. Thank you for joining us on this episode. There are so many veterans with the core strengths to become successful entrepreneurs and continue to make a huge positive impact on our country. Here we highlight the amazing successes of combat veteranpreneurs. Combat veterans for the purpose of this show are soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen who have served the United States in wars, campaigns, and in theater on foreign soil or hostile waters. Our guest today is Kelly Crigger. Kelly is a retired Army officer, entrepreneur, and author with over 200 articles and 8 books to his credit. Dark World, a collaboration with the Travel Channel's Zach Bagans, reached the New York Times Bestseller list in 2011. His first novel was released in November 2016. He owns and operates Graybeard Publishing, a book publishing company for veterans. All right, Kelly, welcome to the show, and thank you for being a guest.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be on.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you tell our listeners all about your journey from a combat veteran to a successful entrepreneur. But before we get into your entrepreneurial experience, can you give our audience an overview of your military experience?
Yeah, sure. So first off, right now, everybody's kind of freaking out because they're like, Kelly, I was expecting a girl. So, seriously, yes, I get that all the time. I get emails all the time, Dear Mrs. Crigger. Because as soon as they see your name is Kelly, they assume things, which is cool. It's fine. Because in the long run, you want a guy with a girl's name next to you in a bar fight. Because we've been defending our names our whole lives. And we know how to fight. So you want a Kelly, a Tracy, or a Fabio. God forbid. If you know a guy named Fabio, that dude's got your back in a bar fight. Let me tell you.
That's right.
So I'm the son of a colonel who's the son of a colonel who's the son of a colonel, that kind of thing. And so growing up, that's the only thing I ever really wanted to do was be in the Army. And, my father and my stepfather were both battalion commanders. And that's the only thing I wanted to do was be a battalion commander in the Army. So it was, I kind of had blinders on, to be honest with you. It was just growing up. My brothers are both retired lieutenant colonels like myself. My sister's married into the Army. So it's just a family business, to be completely honest. So when I went to college, I immediately joined ROTC, joined the National Guard. My mom had to go down with me to the MEP station to sign me up for the Guard because I was 17 at the time. Because, if you're under 18, your parents have to actually give you approval to join the military. So I was enlisted as an infantryman. I was a tow gunner in the Kansas Army National Guard. And then when I graduated from KU, I went into the Army for active duty for 20 years. And I got out in 2011. And for that entire 20 years, I was a chemical warfare guy. Most people call it CBRN now. Back then we called it NBC. But it's basically the one person you don't want to see coming into your area because the chemo makes you get into MOP 4. And everybody hates MOP 4 because it sucks. But at the same time, I used it to my advantage. My whole career, I was always in somebody else's unit. So everybody has to have a chemo, which is kind of the beauty of being a chemo. So I was in a attack helicopter battalion. I was in a special forces battalion. I was in a tank brigade. I was in an infantry team at Fort Irwin, California. Then I finally actually went into a chemical unit as a major. And after that, I went back to special forces and went to be the first Special Forces Group chemical officer before I retired at Fort Belvoir at the Defense Threat Reduction Agency.
Yeah, wow. I bet being able to take your your industry, your trade, per se in the military, and go from unit to unit has actually been very beneficial to you as you transitioned out of the military, because it gives you exposure to how different organizations, different units operate. And, as an entrepreneur, that's absolutely valuable.
Yeah, you get to see how everybody else lives. You get to see how everybody else operates. I mean, I spent a year in a helicopter unit. I spent 5 years in special forces. I spent 3 years in a tank brigade. And it's not just the experiences with the different subcultures of the Army, but the different ways that people operate. I mean, pilots, special forces guys, and tankers are completely different people, let me tell you. Tankers are very bold and audacious, and clank, clank, I'm a tank, I'm going to kill you. Pilots are very, I'm going to fly. And when I'm not flying, I better be comfortable kind of people. And special ops guys are just different. It's hard to describe. I guess the one thing I loved about being, I spent 5 years in special forces as a chemo. And the one thing I loved about that culture was everything was common sense. If it didn't make sense, you didn't do it. So I really loved their approach to everything. They did everything very efficiently. And that's one of the things I took away from my career in the Army after 20 years as a chemo. Being a chemo kind of sucks in a lot of ways, but in other ways it's really great because you get to see how other people live and other people think.
Yeah, and you're basically, bringing a common set of standards to them, right? As from the chemo perspective, it doesn't matter what you do for your job. What you guys are providing as a service or as a support function is the same, from what I understand, right? And no matter what the discipline is that you're working with.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, it's one of those ways to make make a negative into a positive. When I first found out I was going to be a chemical officer, I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm an infantryman. I'm enlisted infantry, and you want me to be a chemo? But very quickly I adapted to it and found the silver lining in it and made a career out of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. In the military, you can do many different functions. I mean, when I was deployed to Saudi, I was, when I left Rome, New York, I was in a special security office pushing papers in the classified realm, and I went over there, and all of a sudden now I'm in an operation maintenance unit, and I'm working on air conditioners, I'm working on electrical units and plumbing, and I had, other than handyman stuff I did, growing up as a kid, I had never touched that stuff, and you quickly adapt in those environments and become, a contributor really quick, and it actually is really good for you in the long run because it teaches you how to be adaptable and how to take things that you've learned from other disciplines and quickly apply them to what you're doing and be successful at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's totally true.
Yeah. So Kelly, as you transitioned out of the military, at what point did you kind of know you wanted to go into any form of entrepreneurship?
I didn't. It kind of came to me. And so I guess about 5 years before I got out of the military, I decided I wanted to write a book. And that book opened up a lot of doors. I went and lived and trained as an MMA fighter and wrote a book about it. We got to meet a lot of great people. And one of them was BJ Penn. And BJ Penn, the MMA lightweight champion at one point, was great. He said, I didn't find MMA. MMA found me. Because he was approached one day by somebody who said, I think you should be a fighter. And that guy was right. And then, it opened up doors for BJ. And it kind of happened to me in the same way. I wrote my first book, and I was marketing the book, and I was, getting it out there, selling copies. Everything's going great. And I ran into Nick Palmisano from Ranger Up at the 2007 Combatives Tournament at Military Combatives Tournament at Fort Benning, Georgia. And Nick and I just kind of talked very briefly. And after the book came out, he carried the book in his on Ranger Up on the website. And then after that, he approached me about being a partner in the company. So I did, and that was my first, I guess, taste of being an entrepreneur. Because Nick and I both had day jobs at the time, but Nick was running this side business making T-shirts, which, back in 2007, 2008 wasn't huge, but it was a nice little side business. Today, Nick is, he's running Ranger Up, which is a gigantic apparel business and doing very well. And I was very fortunate to get in on the ground floor when he invited me to be a part of the company. So I guess to answer your question, it wasn't that I went out there to say I want to be an entrepreneur. It kind of found me.
Yeah, that's interesting, because a lot of people make that a conscious decision, right? And they jump out there and they think they've already got a set path, and then they get really dismayed when it doesn't go that way. But obviously, as you pointed out, opportunities are coming, have come, and it's, one thing has led to the other. So that's a really interesting path.
Yeah, the one great lesson about that is, a good friend of mine later on, because I kind of got into the entrepreneurial life, and I still have. So besides Ranger Up, I now run Graybeard Publishing. I'm a partner in the veteran market, and I'm about to launch my own new company making survival bags. So the great lesson of that, though, is one of the people that I got to know in this entrepreneurial field said to me, you don't just bet on the horse, you bet on the jockey. In business, you don't just say, that's a great idea, I need to be part of that. You got to look at the person running the idea and say, I'm going to bet on that guy. And that's the way it was with me with Ranger Up. It wasn't so much I thought, Ranger Up was going to be changing the world with its apparel business, but I met Nick Palmisano and we connected personally. And I said, whatever this guy is doing, I need to be a part of. Because he was just a dynamic individual. There was just something about him that made me say, I'm going to take my life savings, I'm going to give it to him. And it's worked out great for me. And that opened a bunch of other doors, let's see, 4, 5, 6 small businesses I've been a partner in now all came from that first, betting on that first jockey.
Yeah.
That it just opened up so much doors. And I learned so much, I've learned so much about business from Nick and from the people he's introduced me to, like Steve Spiro, who was one of the founders of Audible.com, which Amazon bought for $300 million, which is no small amount.
Right.
And some other people like Tony Jimenez, who runs Microtech, Mark Gross, who runs Oak Grove, Rob Beck, who runs Oler out of Pittsburgh. All those guys are veterans, and they're all very, very successful veterans. And I learned a lot from all those guys. But all of it started with the one phone call or email from Nick saying, do you want to be an investor in Ranger Up? Once I said yes to that, everything kind of changed from there.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how you can, I've had that even in my entrepreneurial experiences, something that seems like in your case, it wasn't necessarily a simple venture. I mean, that was a good bet, and you probably had a really good gut feeling. But in some of my stuff, it's been interesting that I go after a particular opportunity with a certain focus in mind, and when I am done following that path, it's led somewhere I really hadn't anticipated. I've met some amazing people. My network has grown extreme amounts from it. And I have 2 or 3 other opportunities I'm working that are not even related to what the original intention was. And so if you actually write that down and look at almost like in a map, it's amazing how that connects and crosses between different lanes, and it's nothing you can truly anticipate.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And it's just good fortune. I mean, I guess it comes down to, in a way, you can prepare, you can work, you can hustle, and a lot of times you just have to be in the right place at the right time to get your big break. Mm-hmm. And probably everybody would say that. I mean, a lot of people, I wouldn't say everybody, I guess, a lot of people say, I worked, I hustled, I did everything right, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, I'm at this one person at this one place, and everything changed.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I've seen that more times than I can count, but it does come from the hustle. It does come from the grind. It comes from not giving up when it looks like things aren't panning out necessarily, and you just got to keep pushing forward and knowing when to pivot and when to keep pursuing what you're actually trying to achieve. And as long as you're flexible and adaptable and have that in your mind, because I've seen some entrepreneurs, or even people who have actually started a full-on business, and they refuse to pivot, or they refuse to look up from what they're doing to see opportunities that are flying by, and they end up becoming obsolete because they never pivoted, they never changed, they just kept doing what they'd always done.
Yeah, you have to zig and zag in business. Mm-hmm. So I started a company called Veteran Tech Brigade, and our focus was to get veterans. We were going to be geek squads with veterans. That was the whole point. Was excuse me. We're going to make geek squads out of veterans to come fix your computer. But after a while, we realized that was a bad idea. it just didn't work out at all. But we got approached by several companies asking us, can I hire a veteran through you? And so we're like, wow, this is kind of cool. I mean, these companies keep asking us if they can hire veterans through us. So we quickly pivoted from a tech company to a recruiting company. So we you zig and zag in business before you find your sweet spot. We took the original idea and quickly changed it into we weren't Veteran Tech Brigade coming to fix your computer. We were Veteran Tech Brigade coming to give you a veteran with tech skills that you need to hire. Nice. And so we became a recruiting company, recruiting and staffing company, and everything was going fine. Everything's going fine throughout 2012. And then that fiscal cliff hit, the sequestration of 2013 hit, and I lost all my clients, because when the government stopped spending money, the contractors stopped spending money, and they didn't want to hire a recruiter like me to find them talent.
Right.
Now, that was kind of my own fault in a way, because all my clients were in the same industry. All my clients were defense contractors. So as soon as their money spigot got cut, mine did too. And I should have diversified that. I guess that's the lesson there, is don't have all your clients in the same industry. Because as soon as something happens that causes a ripple in their industry, it's going to cause a ripple in yours. Mm-hmm. And I mean, for a year, we tried to hold on. I didn't take a paycheck for a year, so my people could. And in the end, we just couldn't do it anymore. So sequestration killed that small business. But, again, you pivot, and then I started my own publishing company, which is doing good. We've got 4 books out now. We've got 3 more coming out pretty soon. And you just got to adapt, like we were saying earlier.
Absolutely. All right, listeners, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Landmark Life Coaching's vision is to be the nation's premier coaching partner for inspiring and empowering those in transition. They partner with courageous groundbreakers and transitioning veterans to create fulfilling and empowering futures that they desire. They have partnered with various entrepreneurs and transitioning veterans to leverage their core strengths and implement the framework for the future they always dreamed of. Could you or anyone you know benefit from a success partner to bring clarity to your future or their future? If so, please check out landmarklifecoaching.com for more information and charliemikepodcast.com for the Charlie Mike Podcast, showcasing the successes of combat veteranpreneurs. Hey, we are back with Kelly Crigger, and we were just discussing all the amazing entrepreneurial experience that he has gained over the past several years, being in many different industries with many different opportunities. And, one of the great pieces of advice that Kelly gave us just before we went to break was, be sure not to have all your clients in the same space, in the same industry, in the event there's a downturn in that industry, so that you can have long-term, survivability in what you're doing. So that's some really good advice, because a lot of companies will be doing so well while their industry's doing so well, and they're not planning for that day that the industry takes a turn, and all industries, inevitably will have some downturn in them that could really negatively affect a small business if all of your clients are in that space. So Kelly, now that we're back from break I wanted to go into what I call in the zone segment. This is where, we all love when we hit that sweet spot or get the feeling that we're doing what we are meant to do or where we're meant to be. So let me ask you, have you had a point where you kind of got that feeling that entrepreneurship was meant for you?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of times. So I'm a partner in Ranger Up, and anytime I see a Ranger Up t-shirt on somebody in public or in my gym, I think, yeah, that's awesome. Because I remember when we just had a bunch of boxes on a floor in a storage space in Durham, North Carolina, 8 years ago. It was such a tiny business, and everybody involved with it had day jobs. It was just kind of a side business. We were just kind of, doing things, having fun. And then we decided to get into mixed martial arts. So we would go to the UFC fights, and we were making UFC t-shirts. And when you see somebody wearing your shirt and they like wearing your shirt, it means a lot. And it just happened actually just a couple of weeks ago. I was in my gym, and I was wearing a Ranger Up t-shirt, and a guy just out of nowhere came up to me and said, "That's my favorite shirt. You like Ranger Up?" And I was kind of thinking in the back of my mind, well, yeah. But I was kind of coy about it. I said, yeah, Ranger Up makes great stuff. And I talked to him for a couple minutes, and he was a cop and really good dude. And I said, you know what? So here's the deal, man. I'm one of the owners of the company. I'd be happy to send you, 5-6 shirts because you're a good guy. You work at my gym. I've seen you here before. And he didn't have his card on him or any kind of way to tell me his email address. So he was like, well, next time I see you here in the gym, I'll have a card. Okay, so fast forward to yesterday, I saw him in the gym. He's like, I don't have a card, and my email address is really complicated. So I was like, all right, man, whenever you come to the gym and you got a card, I'll send you some free stuff, because he's just a funny, nice guy. So those are one of those moments, absolutely, where all your hard work, all your involvement with a brand, helping build a brand, it's just kind of cool when somebody comes up to you and goes, that shirt you're wearing is awesome. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you the other one is, I write books. I've written 8 books now. And it's just it's certainly satisfying when somebody emails you out of the blue. Like about a month ago, I got this email out of the blue. Somebody saying, hey, it's Sunday afternoon. I'm sitting with my wife. There's nothing on TV. So I cracked open your book and I laughed my ass off for like 20 minutes because you're such a funny guy. You wrote this great book, and it's exactly how I feel. You said all the things that I want to, but I'm afraid to put in a book. So those are the kind of moments that you go, I did something good.
Yeah.
So, I risked my ass. I put my money and my future on the line to do these things, but it paid off. And certainly, when you get your book royalty check, you feel like, okay, yeah, it paid off.
Yeah, that's usually a guarantee.
Yeah. So
yeah,
there's the internal spiritual satisfaction moments where you say, yeah, I did the right thing. I believed in this business. I followed it. I gave it everything I had, and somebody likes it. And that's certainly great. And then there of course, is the tangible moments when you get a distribution check or you get a book royalty check and you go, okay, yeah, I did the right thing.
Yeah, definitely. Those are some great examples for sure. Yeah, I couldn't imagine, I've always been in the service industry for things I do, to be somebody who's responsible for producing a product, and you see that out there and it's growing, and then you actually have somebody like in your case that, has no idea that you're who you are, and happens to just mention it, and it's gotta be amazing.
But but there's two sides to that coin too. I mean, I wrote a book that sold 50,000 copies, and it was great, and I got paid, and I was very proud of it. I also wrote a book that I was very proud of. It took a long time. My first novel I first wrote in 2004. And I edited and edited and edited over so many years. I think 12 years. I finally put it out in 2016. And a lot of people loved it. And I had, I've gotten like 19 5-star reviews on Amazon, which isn't a ton, but still, a lot of people liked it enough to post a 5-star review about how much they love it. But there's always that one guy who posts the 1-star. This is the worst book I've ever read in my life. That makes you go, God.
Yeah.
But then, you got to expect that. You have to, if you're going to throw your heart out there, if you're going to put yourself on the line and say, this is what I want to do, this is what I believe in, this is the company I'm going to launch, somebody's going to hate it. Somebody is going to give you a lot of crap about it. If you don't have a thick skin and can take that criticism, don't do it. I'll tell you that, I've known Nick Palmisano 10 years now. He's a great man. He's an honest, caring, genuine person. But even he has gotten to the point where when people criticize me, I just don't care. When people say what you're doing sucks and I don't like it, I don't, because you can't after a while. You just have to say, this is me, this is where I stand, this is what I believe in, this is what I'm going to do. I personally have a rule of 75%. So if I put a book out there, if I put an article online, and 75% of the comments are positive, then I did something right. If less than 75 are positive, then maybe I should rethink what I said. If less than 50% are positive, then maybe I shouldn't have said it. Maybe I'm wrong. And if it gets below 50, if it gets like below 40, then yeah, I said something stupid.
Yeah.
But you kind of got to get that way. You have to, for every one guy who hates your work and tells you that you're totally stupid, if there's 10 or 11 people that really like what you did, then forget that one guy. He's out there in left field. He didn't get it. It's fine.
Yeah, and in any industry, any business, you're not everything to everybody, and so that's just confirmation that's a true industry standard. So. Yeah,
I mean, like if 20% of the people who comment on your work don't like you, then you're still doing fine. I mean, that means 80% do like what you're doing, agree with you, and that's great.
Yeah, and you can usually garner something positive out of what they're saying to be able to, maybe not change what you're doing, but say, that's a good thing to keep in mind, or that, that's a good point. I don't really care, but that, as far as I'm not going to change what I did, but hey, that's a valid point for, for somebody who's not interested in what I'm doing, and it just gives you a little something in the back of your mind if you.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, what I love is the 4-star reviews. So anybody who posts a 4-star review of my book, I read all the reviews, but the 4-star reviews I actually pay attention to because that's the person who liked it for the most part, but there was one thing that I could have done differently. And my latest book that I put out last year, there was a 4-star review in particular that said, hey, it was great, but at this point he lost me because he did this. And I really took that to heart because I was like, wow, she's right. Yeah. I totally jacked that part up. And I totally remembered that 4-star review. It's not, if you want to get somebody's attention, like an author or any business owner really, posting a 1-star, this guy sucks, I hate everything he's doing kind of review isn't going to get you anywhere. But if you post like a 3-star and say, I liked this stuff, but I didn't like this stuff, that's going to get the business owner's attention.
Yeah.
Because he realizes, okay, I caught your attention, but I didn't complete it. I didn't finish the deal. I didn't close the sale. And here's how I can be better.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people in today's society think, if I just trash this guy online, I'm awesome. Really, what makes you awesome is if you say, I liked this stuff and I didn't like this stuff, because those are the comments that business owners actually read and take to heart.
Yeah, because even on the other end of the spectrum, right? If everybody gives you 5s, it's like, well, there's got to be something here, right? There's always room for improvement. There's got to be something I didn't exactly
right,
get.
Or it's just your mom posting over and over again with a different name.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So exactly.
It just never happened to me at all.
Not when anybody's starting. They don't have anybody that they know help them out with some ratings.
Exactly. I don't have 20 of the 21 5-star reviews planted.
That's funny because it's the old bell curve. You want to go towards the middle, see what somebody who rated you in the middle, because more than likely they have more they will actually take the time to put substantial comments, because even the guy that gave you a straight up 5 probably didn't put anything other than this rocks. This is awesome.
Exactly. You don't pay attention too much to the 5-star and the 1-star reviews. You really don't.
Yeah.
It's 2, 3s, and 4s that you read and actually think about.
Right. Yeah. And that's what you want, right? Because especially as an entrepreneur in any realm, you want to be able to take that constructive feedback and take any personal aspect out of it. Like you said, you got to have thicker skin, that they're not necessarily talking about you. They're talking about the product or the service that you're providing and how it's affecting them. Is it affecting them in a good way or a bad way? And if you're not willing to take that feedback in and adjust to make it better, then you're really not going to be for long in the industry, because others will take that feedback as gold and say, all right, this is good stuff. I like these ones that aren't exactly all the way on, because I'm looking for that free feedback to move forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you have to pay attention to your customer service. I mean, that's one of the things that you should never skimp on as an entrepreneur. Just my little, tip is customer service and customer feedback. If the customer takes the time to email you to say, I like this or I didn't like that, you should listen.
Yes.
If the guys who don't take the time to do that either love you complicitly or completely or hate you completely.
Mm-hmm.
It's the person who takes the time to say, I like you, but here's how you could be better, that you really need to listen to and actually take action on.
Yeah, and it is sometimes, as an entrepreneur or somebody who's developing a product or service, because this is your baby, right? And as soon as somebody tells you it's kind of ugly, it's like, oh, man.
It sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks. Look, I mean, I've been writing for 12 years now. I remember the first couple articles I ever put out, I was like, oh, I'm so proud of this. And nobody said anything bad about it. And then I think it was like my 3rd or 4th article in Real Fighter magazine a long time ago. Somebody finally said, this guy's an idiot. He said this and this, and he didn't take this into consideration. I was devastated. I was like, oh, my God, this guy didn't like my article. And it hurts. It sucks. But then after a while, you get used to it. And like I was saying before, you come up with your own little rules, like my rule of 75%. Mm-hmm. If 25% of the people hate it, I'm still doing good.
And that's true. I mean, because if you look at any approval ratings on things, right, if you get over 60 usually or 50, sometimes you're like, you're doing all right.
And sometimes even those negative reviews can be great, because somebody can say, I hate this guy. He said this and this and this and this, and I don't agree with it. And it tells you, you know what? I'm doing something right because I incited an emotion. I incited somebody to either love me so much that they're going to speak up, or hate me so much they're going to speak up.
Right.
And either way, they're speaking up.
Exactly. And that's ultimately what you want. So that's great. All right. Well, this has been an amazing conversation, Kelly. And as we are running out of time, I'd like to give you an opportunity to let our listeners know how they can get in contact with you or learn more about your business.
All my books are on Amazon.com. I'm a partner at Ranger Up, which is an amazing company that also made the movie Range 15. And I just launched. I'm a new partner in a company that just launched called theveteranmarket.com. And that's the one thing I really wish, if you're a veteran business owner and you're listening to this, check out theveteranmarket.com. We're trying to create our own Amazon for veteran businesses and military spouse-owned businesses. So if anybody wants to buy veteran, they come to theveteranmarket.com, and there's certified, verified veteran-owned businesses just waiting for them. And that's the one big thing I'm really very, very excited to be a part of right now with Scott Davidson, whom you know, a great guy, incredibly dynamic individual. And soon look for, hopefully this summer, Dash bags. I'm starting my own company making bug out bags. We're calling them Dash. Deployment, or sorry, I got my own acronym wrong. DASH stands for Disaster, Accident, Survival, Contingency, and Havoc bag. And the concept behind that is tailored bug out bags for the individual. Because right now I feel that all the companies out there that are making deployment bags or bug out bags are just making a standard bag of, food, water, Band-Aids, flashlights, standard crap. Nobody takes the individual's situation in consideration, like dietary restrictions, geography, what you can and can't carry, all those things. So new company coming out in May I'm very excited about, called Dash Bags. The veteran market, Graybeard Publishing, Ranger Up, those are all my plugs.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you again for being on the show, and most importantly, thank you for your service to our country.
Anytime, brother. Thank you.
Remember, loyal listeners, we are the home of the free because of the brave.
Thank you for tuning in to Charlie Mike Podcast with Dwayne Paro. Our objective is to bring successful veteranpreneurs to help inspire and provide insight into what helped them become successful, with the hopes you can take away various strategies you can implement in your entrepreneurial journey. Visit us on iTunes, leave us a rating and review, and let us know what you thought of the show. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Hoorah!